Orally transmitted teachings, Ongi Kuten in Japanese, on Buddhism. Lesson 2 Buddhism History. The history of Buddhism can be studied according to the division of Buddhist time that is reflected in the teachings of the Buddha: pre-Shoho, Shoho, zoho, mappo. Pre-Shoho period or prehistory of Buddhism from -infinity to -500 years. Pre-Shoho or prehistory period of Buddhism starts from the beginningless past or Kwanganjo and ends at the time when Siddhartha Gautama, who became a Buddha, undertakes the commitment to teach his Dharma or doctrine, or from the Buddha's first oath for others, that is to say around 500 years before our era. This period is not very well documented. It is only known through the teachings of the Buddha. It is characterized by an archaic Buddhism dominated by austerities, self-inflicted suffering, followers who sought only their own salvation and did not care about others, an exclusionary Buddhism, only good people could attain Buddhahood, excluding women and bad people still called ekantikas. Shoho or the correct law period can be divided into three parts: primary or fundamental Shoho or Hokkekyo, secondary Shoho or age of enlightenment, tertiary Shoho or meditation age. Primary Shoho or fundamental Shoho or Hokkekyo. This period begins with the Buddha's first sermon in the Benares serfs' park and ends with the death of the Tathagata. It therefore lasted about 50 years. This period consists of two sub-periods: the pre-Shoho Mahayana or sub-period before the teaching of the Lotus Sutra and the Nirvana Sutra. The Shoho Mahayana or sub-period of the teaching of the Lotus Sutras and Nirvana. Primary Shoho is the period of the birth and consolidation of Buddhism as a philosophy and religion in general. Secondary Shoho or the Age of Enlightenment. This sub-period is characterized by the development of the spirit of research. It was easy to attain Buddhahood, as long as one followed the Buddha's teachings to the letter. Secondary Shoho lasted 500 to 1000 years depending on the sources. Tertiary Shoho or meditation age greater than during this sub-period, which also lasted 500 years. According to the sources, the development of the spirit of research continued. The age of meditation saw the birth and spread of the Provisional Mahayana under the rule of Nagarjuna, Ashvaghosa, Asanga, Vasubandhu. Zoho or the era of formal law. Zoho or the era of formal law is divided into the age of reading, recitation, writing, and the age of temple and stupas building. Buddhism, solidly established in society, lost effectiveness to gain rootedness, even institutionalization. Buddhism, in fact, had many followers, had emerged from its Indian cocoon and had spread practically all of Southeast Asia, but was increasingly unable to bring salvation to men and women. This is because the spirit of seeking having disappeared in the teaching and attitude of the monks, the search for glory and fame or even wealth having taken over, the Buddha's Dharma lost its ability to free its followers from the sufferings of birth and death. Only a handful of people like Jante, Nanyu, Miele, Zhangin and Dengyo were able to reach Buddhahood. Zoho lasted 1,000 years. Mappo or the latter days. The deep reasons for the stigmatization of Mappo as the latter days. Mappo, neither the end of the world, nor the disappearance of the law. The latter days does not mean the end of the world. This eschatological conception of our civilization, of the future of man, of his death, is unknown to Buddhism. In Buddhism, life is eternal. We speak of cycles of birth and rebirth or samsara. The last days of Buddhist law does not time with the disappearance of Buddhist law, which is none other than Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. The 5 characters of Myoho have been fixed in us since Kwanganjo or past without beginning. Why is Mappo called the last days of Buddhist law? Mappo is a conflict-ridden period, the era of conflicts. During this period, as the gap between the Lotus Sutra and those who claim to teach and widely disseminate it deepens, the palaver between the various schools increases, and the 4 poisons and the 5 impurities become the masters of the world. The subdivisions of Mappo from 1052 to plus infinity. Mappo must be divided into lower Mappo, middle Mappo or meso Mappo or median Mappo or intermediate Mappo, high Mappo or upper Mappo or especially Socratic Mappo. Bottom Mappo or lower Mappo from 1052 to 1253. The lower Mappo or bottom Mappo can be subdivided into the age of Buddhism's empowerment from Japanese political power and the age of Buddhism's Japanization or Nipponization. By the empowerment of Buddhism, we mean the financial autonomy of the great temples and their relationship with the imperial power. This had the effect of increasing their influence in the empire. Nipponization of Buddhism means that cultural elements from Japan were introduced into Buddhism, Japanese deities, names, and cults, and so on. Meso-mappo or Middle Mappo or Mappo Median, 1253 to 1930. This sub-period of Mappo bears the imprint of a monk who demonstrate a great spirit of inquiry, Nichiren Daishonin, whose self-enlightenment through the invocation of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, on April 28, 1253 at noon, opened the said era. His philosophy, which illuminated the entire Middle Mappo, and which is characterized by a revisiting coupled with a strengthening of the Buddha's Dharma through the three great esoteric laws, had such resonance in Japan that in the land of the rising sun today about 40 Buddhist schools claim to be inspired by the man who from an early age aspired to become the wisest man in Japan. Among these schools is the Soka Gakkai, whose creation on November 18, 1930 opened Higher Mappo or Sakatic Mappo. Sakatic Mappo or Upper Mappo or High Mappo. Sakatic Mappo began on November 18, 1930 with the creation of the Soka Gakkai in Japan. This creation is part of the fulfillment of the mission entrusted by the Daishonin to his successors. The Soka Gakkai International, which today has 12 million practicing families in the world, is therefore the only organization that is the custodian and vector of Buddhism in the world. Sakatic Mappo can be divided into three periods: Lower Sakatic Mappo, Middle Sakatic Mappo, and Upper Sakatic Mappo. Lower Sakatic Mappo begins on the 18th of November 30 with the creation of the Soka Gakkai and ends with the death of the President Toda. The average Sakatic Mappo begins with the appointment of Daisaku Ikeda as the third president of the Soka Gakkai in 1960 and ended with his Nirvanament or entry into Nirvana on November 15, 2023. Superior Sakatic Mappo can therefore enter the fray. It will last 10,000 years and more. After ingesting this educational capsule, it will be possible for you to deepen your knowledge on this theme by referring to my sutras or writings of a Buddha, in Sanskrit, where it is developed at length. These sutras are available, in French, the original version, and in American English, in Deutsch in paperback and Kindle books on all Amazon sales sites. Regarding the Amazon KDP links to my sutras, please refer to my TikTok or Facebook profiles or even to Lesson 11 of my teachings. All my videos are compiled on my 3 YouTube channels, Kosen Rufu TV, English Kosen Rufu TV and Kosen Rufu Well. For the links to these channels see my bio or type the title of the channel of your choice in the Google search bar.